I'd like to welcome everyone to the Clarkston Independence District Library Board of Trustees monthly meeting, November 17th. The meeting will be called to order at 6:02 p.m. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jan Gaffney. Here. Michelle Ginn. Here. Dan Green.
Here.
Mary Himberg.
Here.
Sally Lamb.
Here.
Allison McFadden Kiesling.
Here.
Marilyn Pomeroy.
Here.
Meredith here.
Okay. Before we have an approval of the agenda for tonight, I need to make an announcement. It was printed in the paper that we would have the public hearing on the budget tonight, but in actuality, that will be in December. We need a 7-day lead time, and it just appeared in this week's paper. That's not enough time. So we are going to review the budget tonight, but we are not going to act on it or have the public hearing until next month. Okay, now I will accept a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and approved the agenda as presented. Any commentary, questions? If not, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Call to the public. Oh, we have some public tonight.
I would like to have us clearly acknowledge the dramatic support of the community by passing the millage, enabling us to not only retain the library, but to work on restoring it to where it was and for the future. And as a part of that, I'd like to thank Bart Clark and the members of the committee, the Library Yes Committee, for all the work that they did that helped that immensely. And lastly, we are blessed with having a library director who, without whom we would have great difficulty surviving, let alone beginning to plan for tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Marion, do you have something to share tonight?
As I mentioned last month, the Friends Holiday Sale will be taking place the first weekend in December. And on Wednesday, December 3rd, we will be setting up, and the sale will be open to the public that Friday and Saturday, December 5th and 6th. And we have some purple and teal tote bags that the Friends are also going to put in for $2 for additional items. So hopefully we can slowly get rid of some of our extra little goodies that we have stashed around the library here. Also, I should mention, hand in hand with this, the Garden Club will be hosting their Greens Market across the street. And we are also looking to further expand our partnership with the Garden Club throughout the coming years. And as I mentioned before at a prior meeting, we're looking with them also with the placement of the statue that was donated and then helping construct a viable support base. The chocolate celebration, which has been a big hit, and we have moved dates around. We decided now we have a firm date. It'll be on Wednesday, March 11th, and we're going to kind of look at this time because this is when spring hasn't quite come and people are getting tired of winter. And finally,
I'm already tired.
It might be like last year where it never seemed to end once it got started. And finally, the Friends are going to be changing their monthly board meeting times. It's still going to be on the second Wednesday of the month, but it will be in the evening instead of the afternoon. This is due to the fact we are getting some new board members on, and this time seems more convenient, and it will be at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Okay, the call for the public has ended, and let's have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We have no one who wishes to remove any item. Okay? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. In front of us, we have the current library statistics.
I have a few little notes from the staff. Let's see. From the head of circulation IT manager, he wanted to point out that the statistics for September and October are quite similar. There was a slight decrease in the number of visitors, but an increase in circulation, downloads, information questions, and computer users. There was a significant increase in wireless users and study room usage. He also wanted to point out that the Pet Adoption Day was on Saturday, October 11th, and it brought in our highest traffic on a Saturday in the month of October. Also, from the head of adult services, the librarians have started tracking the number of computer-specific information questions they field each day. They've assisted patrons with 151 technology-based questions in the past 6 weeks. So they're very proud of that.
Thank you. And that is followed immediately by, you want any more statistics?
More
Statistics.
I feel like I should do one of those little children's books. Beep, turn the page. Dating myself. Okay. General information. Christina Bowers, who is one of our part-time catalogers, will chair the committee creating the library's open house in the new year. She's formed a committee and scheduled 2 meetings this week, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, in order to accommodate as many people as possible. It looks as if the date will fall in February, but the committee will make an announcement about that later this week. Christina is interested in incorporating library board participation into this event. The committee will come up with suggestions and invite board members to select roles that interest and suit them. So keep that in mind. If you have any suggestions of things you would like to do, please let me know. The library has added 2 exciting new services to the website, Mango Languages and Zinio Downloadable Magazine Service. We purchased these services through our library cooperative, the Library Network, known as TLN, to get discounted group pricing. TLN knows we are awaiting expanded funding in the new year, so they were able to negotiate a deal to allow us to start the services now so that we know them well enough to unveil them in the new year. They are promoted in our winter spring newsletter in the Parks and Rec magazine that will be mailed the last week of December. And just as a little bit of additional information, Mango Languages is an online language learning system teaching practical conversation skills for 45 popular languages. It's fast and easy and available through the library's website from home or at the library. And you log in using your library card, and it creates a profile for you so that you can track when it remembers when you've finished certain lessons and you can pick up where you left off.
Oh, nice.
One of the really neat features is that you need speakers so that you can hear it speak to you, but if you have a microphone on your tablet or on your computer, you can speak into it, and it does a matching of the instructor so you can see if you're pronouncing it properly, and it's a little visual on the screen. It's really, really neat. The other service, Zinio, is a digital newsstand available through the library's website that allows our patrons to download popular magazines to a computer, tablet, or mobile device. There are nearly 200 subscriptions to choose from, and the service provides option to be notified when your favorite titles release a new issue. And just to give you some examples, it includes The Economist, Newsweek, Us Weekly, American Girl, Oprah Magazine, Food Network, Rolling Stone, just all different kinds of magazines, Consumer Reports, that kind of thing. So that's a really neat new service, and that's on the website starting now.
Good.
In terms of staffing, we've completed the process of selecting and appointing a new head of technical services. Brad Reuter will start Monday, November 24th. We look forward to welcoming him to our team. And we've also completed the selection process to add a new business and marketing librarian to the staff. This has been a collaborative effort between the library and the Clarkston Area Chamber of Commerce to move the library toward better support of economic development in our community, and the appointment of this new librarian is on this evening's agenda.
Okay. And these other statistics, or we're saving these? Right there.
Yep.
Okay. All right, excellent. On to regular business. And number one is the appointment of a business and marketing librarian. So we'll let Julie discuss that with us.
At the October 6th budget meeting, the library board finalized and approved the creation of the business and marketing librarian position. This position will play a key role in the library's commitment to economic development and service to the business community. We posted the job from October 13th through the 27th, 2014. The library selection committee consisted of Marilyn Pomeroy, Michelle Ginn, Lawrence Marble, and Julie Meredith. We received 14 resumes and conducted 5 interviews. The selection committee narrowed the field to the top 2 candidates. Those candidates were asked to attend the Clarkston Area Chamber of Commerce Business Expo and then attend a meet and greet for an interview with Penny Shanks, Janelle Best, and 2 members of the business community. After all 3 pieces of this process were complete, the candidate that we recommend is Melissa Henry. She is an internal candidate. Ms. Henry is a friendly and skilled librarian with a background in corporate law. She's a Clarkston resident with current knowledge of the community, but exhibited a keen interest in listening to what the business owners need and using collaboration in a variety of formats and channels to best fulfill these needs. She was dynamic and enthusiastic in both interviews, giving a variety of specific examples of strategies she would use to gather information about the business owner's expectations and the types of resources she would use to deliver the information. She enthusiastically gave examples of how her direct involvement in her father's small business in Dearborn and her knowledge of corporate law made her uniquely able to relate to real-world concerns like implementing the Affordable Care Act and marketing through social media. Most importantly, she realizes that the position we have created is unique and is ready to listen, learn, and grow into the business and marketing librarian our community needs. Based on the salaries of current staff and the experience in her resume, the committee recommends a salary of $40,000 and the standard full-time employee benefits package.
Okay. Any questions, comments? It's been really interesting to sit on the committees and interview candidates, and so it was very good. We enjoyed it.
It's refreshing.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I will move to appoint Melissa Henry as the business and marketing librarian with a salary of $40,000 and the standard benefits package of a full-time employee. The date of hire will be Monday, December 1st, 2014.
I'll second.
Well, whatever.
Well, one of us said.
Doesn't matter.
Michelle, Dan has seconded.
Okay.
It's a tie. We will now fight on.
Are there any questions, comments? This is kind of a unique position. Several libraries in our area did have business librarians before the economic downturn, but the focus here is a little different in that we are really working on economic improvements in the community and seeing what we can do with library resources to assist in that process.
I have one question.
Yes.
How did the Chamber of Commerce and the business people react to this? I know they were going to have a meet and greet with the candidate. How did they react?
It went really, really well. It was an interesting process. Penny and I have been talking about this for several years, and so it was something that we already kind of knew what we were looking for. But in terms of the meet and greet, they really did sort of an informal interview process. They had their own questions that they asked. The business owners wanted to ask specifically, how are you going to reach out to the businesses? How are you going to let them know you provide this service? And we made it very clear that this position we assumed would be out of the building quite a lot in the community, probably working with a laptop or a tablet at the place where the businesses are, where the business owners are at their businesses. Expecting them to come into the business, expecting a business owner in a small business to leave their establishment and come here, I think is
Asking a lot.
And, but I know that Melissa's really interested in the things that she can create, pathfinders and things like that on the website that people can use when they have this question in the middle of the night. Sort of, they can go to the website and get a lot of the answer, and then in the morning they can call and get a hold of the business librarian, and she can walk them through the rest, any questions that they have. But they were really excited about this because they're thrilled this is going to be something that we're doing. So.
And the resources are available, but it's that link between the resources that are available and the people who need them which is where we thought that the library could be most useful.
It serves a large portion of our community, this business community. So.
And we're very excited. Tara Moon, who was the business librarian at the Southfield Public Library for 4 years, she's now the assistant director at Bloomfield Township Library, and she's offered to spend a couple of hours with our new business and marketing librarian to orient her, to give her some tips and tricks, and then also connect her to the network of business librarians that are still existing in southeastern Michigan. And then we got an offer from Deb Thomas, who is the MEL database coordinator at the Library of Michigan. She's going to come out from Lansing and spend a day training our business and marketing librarians specifically in the databases offered by the state that are business specific. And that's a two-part training. It'll be a training on how to use those databases more effectively, but then also she's going to do sort of a train the trainer, which will teach Melissa how to better educate the public about how to use those databases to the best of their ability. So we've got that coming up in the month of December, so we're very excited about that.
So, all those in favor of appointing Melissa Henry as our new business librarian, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Now, money. More money. Let's talk about the approval of the HAP insurance plan.
You did approve the initial overview of the HAP insurance plan, but now all of the premium rates are in, and so this is here for your approval this evening. At the September meeting, the Library Board approved the initial renewal of the HAP PPO for the full-time library employees. The library follows the state of Michigan's 80-20 cap system of determining employer-employee premium contributions. So the library pays 80% and the employees pay 20%. It's a HAP 2000 20% with a 1530 office visit and 20/40/60 prescriptions. The 2015 monthly premiums for single are $598.31. For two-person are $1,376.10. For family, $1,555.59. For comparison purposes, employee contributions have been, in 2013, these are per pay contributions. A single was $43.42, a two-person was $85.56, and a family was $130.26. In 2014, the per pay contribution was $51.18, $117.72, and $133.08. And renewing the same plan and continuing to follow the 80-20 cap, the employee contributions for 2015 would be $55.23, $127.02, and $143.59. And we did, once again, talk to Walters Financial, which is our agent, and asked them what the best options were. And because the Affordable Care Act is still in the process of being implemented, the most economical way for us to continue for one more year is to stick with the plan that we already have, because the increase is minimal. I did have him look at some of the other plans for us, and the rates were much, much higher. So.
Partly because we have a small staff. So you have to have a big staff to get better rates. All right. Do we have any questions before a motion on this?
I do have in your packet the information about the plan itself. It will look very familiar. Nothing's changed.
It's like last time.
The Employee Benefits Committee especially. Like, yeah.
I've seen it.
Probably in your sleep.
All right. Do we have a motion on approval of the HAP insurance plan?
I move to approve the renewal of the current HAP health insurance plan for full-time employees using the 80-20 cap to determine employer and employee contributions.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the current HAP insurance plan. Comments? Questions? The details are pretty clear here. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Item number 3, review and discussion of the 2015 budget.
Okay.
More.
I know. It should start to look familiar at this point.
Yes.
It's a little beefier than it was before. So you have two pieces for the budget. One is the spreadsheet that shows past years as well as this year. And the other piece is the 2015 budget request for technology specifically. So let's start with the spreadsheet of all of the various years. And we're going to start at the bottom where it says revenue. And we're going to look at 2015. In terms of revenue, the millage rate, or the millage will bring in for the entire district $1,757,294. The Corridor Improvement Authority will capture $10,660. State aid, I've only budgeted in at $10,000. We actually received this year $17,000, but it's so hard from one year to the next to judge how much that's going to be. There have been cuts as high as 40%. So I thought 10,000 was probably a safe number. It's hard to guess. It's too soon to tell. So I like to budget a little bit low, and then if it comes in higher than that, we can
Be pleased.
But I try to budget low enough so that if it does get cut, that we're not scrambling to figure out what to do. In the past, we've had a contract with the city, so that line does still appear here, but obviously we don't do that anymore, so that line is entered with a 0. Penal fines. Penal fines are, it's a formula calculated by the county that, it's written into Michigan's Constitution that libraries get a little portion of things like traffic tickets. And it is calculated, it's a very complicated formula, but it is calculated by Oakland County. And that number has been going down over the course of the last several years. And then last year it went up, and this year it went up. It's actually closer to $50,000, but I would, to be on the safe side, budget 45 because it was going down about 10 to 20% for 3 or 4 years in a row, and then it shot back up a little bit. So it is affected by things such as the number of people who get pulled over, by the number of police officers actually on the job to do that, pulling over people, whether or not people have the money to pay their traffic tickets, and we suspect that from 2009, 10, 11, that some of that was affected by those variables. So this is another one of those things that it's sort of a guessing game, and all you can do is look historically at the trends and try and make an educated guess. So I did budget in $45,000. Fines and fees, this is a similar sort of thing. This is library fines and fees in terms of late materials, replacement of materials, rental of the meeting rooms, and that sort of thing. And that we do strictly on historical basis. It's interesting because some libraries in past years have decided that in an effort to try and raise revenues, they have raised their fine structure, and all that does is make people more responsible. They bring their things back and your revenues go down. So it has the effect that you want. You want to get the materials back. That's the purpose of a fine. Is to get the materials back so that they can be utilized by other people in the community. So our fines and fee structure has remained the same for, to be perfectly honest, as long as I can remember.
At least through 2006.
At least through 2000, well, even before that, because I remember it being the same back in when I worked here in the 90s as well. So it has remained fairly stable for many, many years. But what we do is track it historically and look every year about how much money we take in, and about $20,000 is what we bring in. Duplicating and photocopying, that's another thing that's up and down depending on how many things people print out, how much photocopying they do. But about $1,800 is what we bring in. That does defray cost on toner and paper and that sort of thing. Interest has been pretty stable in terms of that's interest on our accounts that are invested, and Jan and I are looking at some new ways to invest the money. Of course, we're going to be very conservative about the way we do it, but we are looking at some different options for 2015. But until we get those things put into place, we want to keep it kind of where it has been.
Okay.
And then the last thing that is a revenue item for us is E-rate. And I know that there are people in the community that understand what E-rate is. E-rate is a federal grant that helps libraries provide broadband internet for the public to use. And it's based on, the amount that we receive is based on how many students in the school receive free lunches through the free lunch program. And we receive about $5,000 a year. The estimate for this year looks like it's going to be closer to $6,000, but that's another one of those things that they calculate it out, and it's a little bit hard to predict in advance. So I tend to budget a little bit low.
Be conservative.
To be conservative. Better to be safe than sorry in the end. Any questions on where the money is
Comes
coming
from.
Okay. So the total is $1,831,434. Okay, so if we hop to the very top of the page,
Now we'll spend it.
now we'll lay out how to utilize those funds. Okay, so the first thing on the list is wages for full-time staff. The number is $438,519. Now this takes into account the current full-time staff that we have, which is a staff of 8. It takes into account our new head of tech. It takes into account our new business librarian. There is a little bit of, there is a budget put in there to hire facilities, which is one of the things we've spoken about at the last 2 budget meetings, that we would like to do that. But it is an estimate. The next thing on the list is the wages for part-time staff. And you've seen the spreadsheet where I've been calculating out, obviously we're going to increase the hours, we're going to be offering more programming and that kind of thing, so we need to increase staffing. And the estimates from that spreadsheet are worked into this. They are obviously still estimates, but I think they've gotten tighter over the course of the last month, and so I think these are probably pretty good numbers. In terms of overtime, we actually don't use overtime. I think we've had one instance of overtime. Actually, I don't even think we had any last year. I don't think we've had any overtime in the last, since I've been here. But we do budget a small amount in. Now, what that money would be used for in the coming year, is an estimate, would be when the library is closed for more than 2 days at a time, we have to have somebody come in and empty the book drop. So for the past 8 years, I have done that just as part of my job. But after 8 years, I would like to hand that off to somebody else, but I would expect that we would pay them to do that, to drive in on their own time and to do that. Now, there are a couple of options for what those employees could do, and I will bring you a policy to approve before we actually start doing that. I've committed myself to doing it till the end of the year. But what they could do is leave early, like on a Friday, and save 2 hours that they would then come in and work over the weekend to empty the book drop. Or they could work their full 40 hours and they could do overtime as a method of getting paid for that. So I would like to put in a small cushion and give people the option of how they want to do that. I suspect most of our staff would prefer the leave early and just work the extra 2 hours. That's most of our staff likes to stick with their 40 hours. We don't have a lot of people here who are interested in working themselves to death, other than probably me. But I do put that little cushion in, so I've put $500 in there. I think that's probably a safe estimate. That is also, we put it in there in case we ever need, in an emergency, to call in the custodian, but we've been pretty good about not needing to do that. So, the next line, other allowances, is something that's from the past. That's not something that we actually budget in, but the line item does still exist. This year I'm going to sit down with Sharon, who is our auditor, or is our accountant, and we'll start taking out some of these odd line items that we no longer use. And I think we're going to add a line item or two just to make some tracking a little bit easier. Unemployment is another thing. We are a reimbursing entity for unemployment. That means if somebody files for unemployment, then we reimburse based on what the state charges or pays that person. We haven't had to pay unemployment for the last several years. Basically what I do is I put it in as a placeholder. It's a little bit hard to budget because, for example, if somebody collects unemployment in 2014, they bill us for it in February of 2015. But we don't hear about it until 2015. So I have no way to know what to budget. I'm assuming nobody applied for unemployment during 2014, but I put a little placeholder in there just in case.
Somebody trips over the Thanksgiving turkey or something.
Well, it really would be...
Does it have to be on the job?
Well, no, this is just unemployment. This isn't,
that's
this isn't
unemployment,
workers' comp.
right? This is workers' comp.
This is unemployment, meaning we would have had to have laid someone off, and we haven't done that. Occasionally, we do receive unemployment claims from part-time employees who have worked for us in the past. They file those claims. If it's something that we feel is an inappropriate filing, as in we didn't lay them off, they chose to leave, then we can appeal that and that sort of thing. But I usually like to put a little money in there so that it's not an empty line item of zero.
Okay.
FICA taxes are calculated based on the amount that's put in both of the main wage lines, so that's been calculated out. Health insurance, I have a spreadsheet that calculates out the number of people that we have taking the various plans and does that math for me. This is based on everyone that we have currently, the head of tech that we just appointed, and then the business librarian we just appointed. What is not included in this is any future hiring, which would be if we hire a facilities manager, we would have to plug that number in. I didn't want to guess. I wouldn't know if that person would be a single, a double, or a family. So that I would add. You would see it in the budget section of the appointment process. So,
Okay.
Life insurance, retirement, HCSP, which is our healthcare savings program. Those are all retirement pieces. Those are calculated out based on salary, and they're based out on the people that we have, including our two newest employees, not including a potential facilities person when we get around to doing that. So that would be those would be line items that we would adjust at that time, not knowing what that salary would be. Longevity is something that's from the past, that's a line item we would be eliminating. Workers' comp is something that I had to just estimate. It's basically how we do that is we submit what all of the employees are and what their titles are and what they do, and then it's calculated accordingly. Librarians are pretty inexpensive in terms of workers' comp.
Non-construction.
I suppose we could trip over footstools, or who knows. But when we add librarians, that number doesn't go up very much. It's the one that adds would be facilities and custodial. Those are the expensive ones, and we are talking about that. So this number is based on the current employees that we have, and it is an estimate. But if we add additional custodial or facilities, that number could go up. So, and that would be another thing that you'd see as a budget adjustment when the appointment is made. Disability, both short-term and long-term, those I calculated out. They had to be estimates because I haven't submitted all the data on those employees to the company yet. But I think my numbers are pretty good. I estimated a little bit high just to make sure we've got a bit of a cushion. But if it turns out that there's going to be an issue, we can do a budget adjustment later in the year. So that's the wage section. That's the employee section. And just to help you a little bit, if you look, we had talked about wanting to, usually when you're talking about wages for a library, between 50 and 65% of your budget is spent on staffing. And so what I did was calculate out our total budget or total revenue for the year, and this little number that's under the 2016 budget at the bottom, where it says 915,717. That's that number, so that you've got, that's 50%, and so we're under that right now. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a marker.
So that's 50%?
No, that would be 50% of
Okay.
the actual revenues, and 897,169 is where we are right now.
Okay.
So. Moving on to the actual operating expenditures, subscriptions. Subscriptions includes things like magazine subscriptions and services. It does include all of our electronic databases. It includes our Overdrive, which is our downloadable service, which we consider to be a subscription because we purchased that as part of a cooperative. And we put in a little bit of extra money because there are a couple of databases that are business oriented that we think our business librarian may be interested in looking at. So I put those in as with a little bit of a cushion so that she can look at a couple of things specifically business related. The next line is operating supplies. Operating supplies includes all of our paper and our toner, all of our processing supplies. That number I boosted up a fair amount, and that's because if we're buying more books and DVDs, we need to buy more processing, more tape, more security, more all of those kinds of things to get those materials out on the floor. That's one of the line items I would like to split apart. We have a new head of technical services starting, and I'd like to sit down with him and talk about breaking out the difference between things that we're spending for general operating, but then have him have a separate budget that would be processing supplies so we can better track how much of our budget is going toward those kinds of things. I think it'll make it easier for us. We do have some of our materials pre-processed when we purchase them through our distributor, our book distributor. And we want to be able to actively look at pricing and make some good comparisons to find out which is more cost effective. But I think we're having trouble teasing it out right now.
Okay.
Audit fees, that's just the estimate based on what our auditor said we would be expending going forward. Professional and contract services, that actually includes anything that we would get through the library network or the Michigan Consortium for Library Services. That includes all of our internet contract, because it is contracted out. It's something that we buy. It's anything that we buy collaboratively. And the library network is 67 libraries in Wayne and Oakland County. So we do contract with them for various databases and services, including
So
our
that would include Mango and the like. Would that
well,
include-
Mango is a specific subscription, but things like the delivery service on our interlibrary loan is something
Okay.
that we contract through them. The internet itself, our broadband, is something that we purchase through them. So the support of all of those kinds of things. We have our website hosted off-site by them.
Oh, okay.
And so we pay for that through that line item.
Because it's a consortium.
Because it's consortium and we get consortium pricing, yep. Special events, that's our programming budget. And there's actually several pieces to the programming budget. The first piece obviously is adult, teen, and children's. We have a new business librarian starting, so we would like to give her a budget to work on programming specifically for businesses. So we did add a piece in for her. And then we also wanted to add in a piece for just sort of a miscellaneous piece to make sure that we've got the money set aside, sort of an emergency fund. Basically what I did was I put in $1,000 in case anybody goes scooting past their budget, to make sure that we don't have to hit, if they don't have to hit it right on the nose. But it's just a little bit of a cushion. Legal fees. Legal fees I put in, I don't think we're going to need this amount of money, and by the time we get to the final draft of the budget in December, I may reduce that number. But I know that we wanted to, the auditor wants us to talk about a number of policies that are specifically financial in nature, and we would like our attorney to review those things. So I put in that number, but I need to go back down that list of policies and see how many we have and then determine based on that. This number was actually based on the fact that we were doing an election and we knew that we were going to have issues with ballot language and that sort of thing. So I think this number's a little high, but I was afraid to lower it until I had a little bit more time to do some more research on it. As I said, this is a draft. The telephone seems to be holding pretty stable over the past several years. Mileage, I did add some additional mileage. There's a couple of pieces in terms of mileage. Mileage is being able to send our employees out into the field to go to meetings. The library network, for example, is our collaborative, and they offer meetings for the circulation supervisors. They offer meetings of the adult services librarians and the children's services librarians, and we'd like to be able to send our employees out into the field in order to come back with good ideas. So we'll need to be able to pay mileage. The other piece is I think we're going to have to sit down and determine, we've never had an employee that's been out in the field as much as our business librarian may be. So when she starts, I will sit down with her and we'll figure out how we might handle that.
Okay.
Whether we are going to have her, everything is very, very close. But after you've driven back and forth to the Chamber of Commerce 25 times in a month, it would add up. It'd be a lot of wear and tear on her vehicle. So we're going to have to try and figure out how we're going to deal with that. Whether it's going to be she tracks every short trip that she makes, or whether it's going to be that we may measure it over a course of time and create a stipend that we give to her because she's doing all of that running around. But she and I are going to play that by ear and come back. But I did put money into that budget. At least in the beginning, we'll do it on a mileage basis, and maybe reimburse her once a month for the mileage that she chalks up on that. Printing and publishing. One of the things that we talked about extensively in the budget workshops was the fact that we need to do, obviously, more marketing of our services. So we have expanded our newsletter from 4 pages to 6. We would like to put some more ads in the paper. We would like to be able to do more Friday folder flyers home so that the students know about the things that are going on in the library. And so this number does accommodate those things. That I spent a lot of time kind of trying to tease out how much money we would need to do that. But then, of course, we're going to have a business and marketing librarian, so she may have some additional ideas. So I may come back to you with additional thoughts on this, but I think she's wanting to focus quite a lot on social media, which doesn't have a real high cost attached to it, whereas some of these other things do. So, insurance. Our insurance plan is actually, this is insurance on the building itself and the liability of insurance. This actually holds pretty stable. This is Michigan Municipal Risk Management. It's a really neat program. Essentially what happens is it's for municipalities and governmental entities, and it's a nonprofit, and it estimates based on your building and the kind of entity that you are, library versus city versus whatever, what the liability might be. They have lots of information, lots of data going back very many years in terms of the kinds of liability issues that various types of buildings have, and they come up with an estimate. The municipalities pay into it. There's a big pot, and then they have a cap on how much reserve money that they need to have in play. So if, for example, municipalities have many liabilities that are paid out, and that pot drops down, the insurance rate goes up. But the last couple of years, there have not been a lot of claims, and that pot has been overfunded, and so the way that they deal with that is to lower the insurance rate of everyone who's putting money in toward that pot. So our insurance has gone down the last couple of years.
What's the name of that company?
It's Michigan Municipal Risk Management, MMRMA. One of the other really neat things that they do is they take a piece of that pot and they set it aside, and they provide grants to allow municipalities, police departments, libraries to invest in things that lower your liability and your risk. So you can write grants to have additional security cameras put in. Police departments can write grants to purchase additional vehicles, to start up a canine program, those kinds of things. So that's something that it's just a really neat program, and I thought the public should know that because we are a municipality on a very small scale, we are part of that. But it's a neat program. Electric has been holding pretty stable the last few years as well. We've been coming in under budget, which is always a good thing.
So we'll just continue
So I'm continuing to hold that number, and we're monitoring it this year. It all just depends how hot it is in the summer, how much you turn the air conditioner on, and that sort of thing. We are going to be open additional hours, but we've been coming in under budget. So I think we're okay. We can track it over the course of the year, and if we're running into problems, we can make a budget adjustment. Water is a line that we're going to be eliminating. We used to have water and sewer as two separate lines, and the amount of money is so small that it wasn't worth separating it out. The bill comes as water and sewer, so we're just going to put it together. Heat is the same thing. That's basically our gas bill that pays for we have 5 furnaces up on the roof, and they are gas furnaces. So I did up that one a little bit after last winter. I cross my fingers and hope it's better winter, but we'll be realistic just in case. It's awfully cold this evening.
Yes.
The sewer also has been staying pretty stable. As I said, it includes water and sewer, and one of the things that really plays on our water and sewer is how much we need to irrigate, and we did not need to irrigate hardly at all. So, but I'm afraid to lower the number too much because we've had a couple of wet summers, and then next year will be a drought, so who knows. Building and grounds, I did raise the building and grounds budget significantly. There have been a number of repairs and maintenance items that we have not been able to do. This would take into consideration, we would like to add professional cleaning of the carpets and washing of the windows, some of those kinds of things. This is still a draft number. I've been working with Arlene to come up with other ideas of things that we should probably put in, things that we've neglected so long we've forgotten that we used to do them. But I did raise that number significantly. Equipment maintenance I held the same. That's that includes our photocopier, which is a lease. That includes the maintenance on Polaris, which is our integrated library system. It includes the maintenance on our security gates, our self-checkout machines, and all of the technology up at the circulation desk. Those numbers have been holding pretty stable. In the next couple of years, we may have to upgrade some of those things, and when you buy new equipment, then it goes into, usually when you buy it, you get a couple of years included in the price of the purchase. So hopefully we'll be doing that in the next couple of years. So we'll see this number go down a little bit, and then of course it'll go back up again. But conferences and workshops, I did plug in a number. I'm still doing some calculations on that, but I did plug in enough money that right for the past 3 years, all we've done is webinars. Our staff hasn't been out of the building for any kind of training in quite a long time. And I did put a little bit of a cushion in there, thinking that there is a possibility that we might like to bring in a Polaris trainer to do some additional training. I'm not sure if we really need that, because we did just hire a head of tech who is very comfortable with Polaris. He was at the Orion Township Library when they went to Polaris just a few years ago, so his training is very up to date. But I did want to just put in a little bit of money in case we do want to bring in a Polaris trainer. By December, I'll know for sure, and that number will be a little more concrete, but I did put it in as a placeholder. Refunds and rebates for MTT, that's the, if somebody goes to the Board of Review and asks for their taxes to be reduced for various reasons, that in the past several years, basically the Board of Review for Independence Township is where the majority of that comes from, but if somebody goes through the Board of Review process, the county reimburses them for that amount of money, and then it gets billed to the township, and then we would reimburse the township for the library portion of it. Well, now that the millage is in the library's name, in 2015, we will be seeing bills coming directly from the county, which will make that much easier for both the township and the library. But I have no idea what to guesstimate on that. And our millage is a little bit more than it was before, so we want to make sure that we've got a little bit of a cushion in there. We have to budget for it, just to be sure that we've got money set aside. Okay. Building. Now, I haven't done a lot in terms of plugging money in for the building quite yet. We've been reviewing the capital improvement plan, and there's a number of projects that we've been discussing. The only one that we know for sure that we really are moving forward on, obviously, is the parking lot. And at the last budget meeting, it was determined that we wanted to put in $50,000 for the parking lot. I've had a contractor come in and take a look at what we're doing, and his feeling was that we should do, to start with, the whole thing will need to be replaced eventually, but he thinks it should be done in sections. And I would agree with him. This is something that we've been talking with our snowplowing contractor and several other people. But he thinks that we should do the driveway from the road all the way to the end of the parking lot, which would take care of all of the worst of it, plus the drainage issue at the very end of the parking lot in that corner. Then in following years, we might do, say, the middle of it, and then maybe do it in 3 sections or in 4 sections. His estimate was that just doing that one section would be between $40,000 and $45,000. So I put in 50, not knowing what the cost would do in the next year or so. It's an estimate at this point, but the point at which we decide we actually want to do that, we may have to make a budget adjustment, but I wanted to put it in as a placeholder so that the public knows we are committed to doing this. We do have a report that was done by HRC, which is an engineering company, before the library separated from the township, that specifically talks about our parking lot and what needs to be done. We have not reviewed that as a board as of yet, but basically what it said is replace the whole thing, start completely from scratch. I think that's a little bit extreme. I think we should probably do it in sections. If it's a huge investment and they're estimating it's anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000, I think we should probably look at something that's a little more practical, doing it in portions. The next line is equipment. That would be your other spreadsheet that I gave you, the long spreadsheet. You'll remember that at the last, we did it at, I believe I can't remember if we looked at the technology plan in October. I know we looked at it at the 2 budget meetings. But at the last budget meeting, the board determined that you wanted to place a priority on anything that Bill had listed as a number 1 priority. Right. So what he has done is taken everything that was a number 1 priority and put it into one spreadsheet and made an estimate of how much it would cost in order to do all of it in 2015, all of the number 1 priorities. It includes computers for both the public and the staff. It includes servers. It does include, originally the number 1s had included battery backups, and as I let you know at the last budget meeting, when we were budgeting the last couple of years for equipment, we were just budgeting for replacement in case of failure. I guess we've been lucky in 2014, we haven't had as many failures of equipment, and so there was a little pocket of money left, and so I told Bill, go ahead and use that money and replace all those battery backups. that's already been taken care of at the end of 2014. So that's not on this list. They're actually already in play. But it does bring the entire total to almost $67,000, and I put that into the budget. Now that you have a look at how much it costs to do all those number one items, I don't know if you want to continue on. I think Bill is ready to, it's going to take him all year to do this list, though. It's not going to be something that January will all be done, but he's going to start with anything in the public areas first and then work his way back from there. Servers and public area first, because that supports the entire structure of the building. So,
Okay.
any questions? Okay. Almost done, promise. Okay, last two line items, books and audiovisual. The way I calculated out this number is that I took my lead from the Quality Services Audit Checklist, which is a plan put out by the Library of Michigan to help libraries benchmark where they are. It has 3 different levels. It has essential, enhanced, and excellent. We've been at the essential level in terms of budget, which is at 7%. Enhanced would be 10% of your budget being spent toward collections, and excellent is 12%. And so what I did was I took our budget and I multiplied it by 12%, and that's the number. Now, at this point, those numbers are just plugged in. This does not take into account that the librarians and I will be sitting down between now and the final version of this budget to determine how much of this is electronic, how much of it is physical, and how it's broken down. But I did want to assure you that we had taken that number and calculated it out and made it specific for making this an excellent library.
So this is for both books and audiovisual?
It would be for books and audiovisual, but it will, by December, take into account, and I'm not sure how we're going to lay it out so that you can see it. I'm not, at this point, our downloadables are actually in our subscription budget, but we know, the way our downloadables work is that we're part of a consortia, and we pay in a certain amount in order to be part of that consortia. We also have a secondary account that allows us to buy downloadable materials specifically for our patrons. For the last couple of years, we've only been putting a small amount of money toward that. The Lions Club makes a generous donation every year, and the Friends of the Library match that. So that money's been going in, and then when we have a little bit of extra, we plug it in there. But we're only talking a couple $1,000s a year. Downloadables are a huge deal at the library. They're getting a lot of usage, and we need to put more of our funding toward that. So at this point, I have calculated this number, and I have plugged it in here so you can see it. But by the December budget, the final version, I may be putting it into subscriptions where it belongs, and then explaining that I've made that move. But at this stage of the game, I wanted you to see 12% of the material of this budget will go toward collections.
Okay.
All right, any questions?
No, it looks like we're moving a long way towards getting where we wanted to go.
I hope so. I hope so. Now, if you look at the number, the bottom number is about, it's $1,555,469. Now, obviously, we haven't finished talking about our capital improvement plan, and there were still capital improvements that we wanted to talk about. In addition, we had talked about some additional staffing and some things like that. So I want to make sure that you're aware that we're not spending to that bottom line. Right. There's some money set aside. There's still wiggle room between now and December, and then going into next year even. This empowers you to be able to say, we want to do this project, the money is there, let's plug it into the budget when we know how much it's actually going to cost. I did put a few placeholders in there, the parking lot. I think we need to reassure the public that that is truly going to be taken care of, and we're going to start with it, but we need to, I'm not sure how much we want to do, but we know we at least want to do the part that was recommended by the contractor. So that part I plugged in.
Right.
We can make a bigger decision going forward should we choose to do that, but the public needs to know. It's earmarked.
Well, there are some
It's
other
going to be
things
done.
I think that we really need to be looking at in
Yep.
terms of capital improvement. You've got an aging building and a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming in and out. So I think there's probably a lot of things we need to.
And I didn't want to just go willy-nilly plugging money in and saying, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'd like to
No,
bring you
well,
the
we have-
projects and
right.
be able to say specifically, this is how much I believe it's going to cost, and have you be able to make that educated decision whether or not we're going to plug it into the budget. So that the public knows, these are the things I know we need to do. These are the things that I know we want to invest in. There's a little bit of cushion here and there, but not really. This is still a pretty lean budget in terms of making sure that it's pretty accurate to what we're actually planning on doing. And then there's money set aside so that you can plug in more as you decide what projects are first and foremost at the top of the list.
Okay, I guess my question is, do we feel that we're comfortable enough at this point in the process? We've had 2 workshops on this. Do we need another workshop before the December meeting, or do you think we're in pretty good shape in terms of knowledge about what we need to do and what we can do this first year?
I'd like to have one more workshop and specifically talk about staffing.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Sounds good.
What kind of a time frame would you like to, you want to keep it on a Monday?
Yeah, Monday works.
Monday works.
Okay.
Mondays, okay.
Mondays are good for me. Since our next meeting is December 15th, right?
December 15th.
And
Mhm.
that's going to be around the corner. Can anybody make it next Monday?
I can.
Because I'm just thinking,
I can.
yeah, doesn't that sound good? Because then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
right.
we're going to be
Right,
Yeah.
into
Exactly.
the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is that, November
The 24th?
24th?
That's the first day of the new librarian.
Yeah.
But it is-
So we
Yep.
can, so we can say hello to
We
him.
can say
Technical
hello.
services, well, that's right, that's
So
right.
what time did,
Do you want to do
4:30?
4:45?
45.
4:45.
4:45,
Yeah.
She gets home at 4:30.
User-friendly for Allison.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
no problem. I will post that we are doing a budget workshop for the purpose of discussing staffing on Monday,
Good.
November 24th at 4:45. We'll do that in the youth activities room,
Okay.
because I know that room is available. This one, I think, probably has something going on. All right. Thank you, Dan. Is there anything that we talked about in the budget meetings that I missed? I went back through our notes and I tried to catch everything and make sure that I didn't miss any little tidbits. Was there anything that you were thinking that you were going to be hearing or seeing in the budget that,
I think so.
okay.
That was
Just wanted to
very
make
good.
sure.
Yeah, the explanation was very
Great.
clear.
Yeah.
And we'll have another chance to talk about it. too.
Yep, well, and when we do this at the December meeting, it will be the full with the narrative and the presentation on the screen and that sort of thing, but this is still a draft, so.
Mhm.
Yes, Tom?
2 things, if I may. And since you sat, I'm going to sit. And I'm older than you anyway. One is, let me put them thematically, and these are visionary, I suppose. That is looking not a long way in the future, but looking to the future. I strongly feel, and a couple of us have talked about this, that the library needs to be viewed as essential. And we need to do everything in our power to make that clear and positive. And I think obviously some steps are already being taken in that direction, such as the hiring of a business person and so on. And there are other things that we can do, and I think we need to be looking at them. One physical thing that I think I would like to encourage you to look at is a generator for the building. I've talked with several people, and an interesting comment was made to me about the library, that it is becoming the surrogate community center,
The go-to place.
the go-to place. And what we're experiencing are more events that cause our power to be lost in locations. And if the library can be seen as the go-to place when all breaks loose, then I think we want to achieve that, because I think that adds to our essentialness. And so I would strongly urge you to take a look at that whole issue about how we can keep the power on, not only for the computers and the servers, which are significant, but also as a gathered place, a place to go to. That's one theme. The other theme is that fortunately the library has survived these years. One of the things that it's hidden in this, and I'm sure it's not really hidden from you, but we need to talk about it openly and publicly because I know it's hidden from the public. And that is that we take our staff for granted. When was the last time they got a raise? Okay?
2008.
2008.
Well, I knew that there was a length of time. What I'm saying is that what we've had is a staff who have been dedicated and persistent, and they've hung with it, if you will, to put it into a simple phrase. And now we need to recognize that. And we need to recognize that by being, in a sense, not only saying thank you, but enabling them to see that they too, as well as the computers being replaced, that they're being appreciated too. And as a part of that, there was a comment earlier about overtime. You all know this, but the public doesn't know this. You don't pay overtime to your director. But I asked you to privately ask her how many hours in the last 2 weeks she has spent on working on the library material and physically here at the library, for which she gets no overtime at all. And so I think you need to look at perhaps a bonus or some kind of recognition for that, something that is appropriate. I think one of the realities is that now that the library is set, and I'm not talking about the director when I say this, that some of our people who are well-trained and capable may begin to look elsewhere, having established themselves and so competent and so on. We don't want to lose them, okay? So anyway, those are my two themes that I thought I'd bring up to suggest that keep those in mind as you look ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Don.
All right. So that's our review and discussion of the 2015 budget for tonight. We'll meet again on the 24th at 4:30 in the
4:45.
4:45. That's right. If I say 4:30, I'll be on time. Yeah, 4:45. All right, in the youth activities room.
I'll get that posted.
And we'll work on that, and then we'll have the public hearing and the finalization of the budget on the 15th. Okay. If there are no other issues, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Therefore, we
Nobody ever votes against
adjourn
that
at
one,
7:03.